because there's going to be a lot of experimentation. You have to look at yourself as a scientist. If we're going back to the biology lesson here, you have to test things for your body, because your body's going to be different than your friends. It's going to be different than your dad's. It's going to be different than your brother's. Even though you're related, some things might work for him that might not work for you. Welcome back to another episode, everybody. I'm really excited for this one. This is something that I've been prepping for a little bit, this topic that we're going to be going into today. And the reason why I wanted to focus on this one, what we're going to be talking about, is the transformative impact of health and fitness, both on your physical and mental well-being. And there's a few reasons why I wanted to talk about this. One, I would say that this is the first key point in my life where I decided that there was opportunity to grow, change, and the habits that I've built now with my health and fitness journey, I would say shaped me into who I am today. They've taught me discipline. They've taught me, how to stay motivated, how to maintain that consistency, and a lot of other things that we'll go into. But I want to preface and say that if you are able to figure this part of your life out, if you're able to figure out what works for you in terms of your health and your fitness, and what I mean by that is like nutrition, exercise, or mindful goals, right? Like part of health and fitness is taking care of your mental state. And I would say, like, if you're able to really understand what works for you, if you're understanding, that you're not going to be comparing yourself to other people, that you're only going to be focused on your journey, then there's going to be a lot of growth that happens, and it's exciting. There's a lot that we can go into here. But something I've been doing in the podcast recently, this type of format, is starting with a little personal story. And this is definitely one I think a lot of people can relate to, because I never was this person who was consistent. I never was this person who was disciplined. I never really worked out. All throughout my life, I played sports. I grew up playing basketball. I played volleyball. I played soccer. I played a lot of sports. I just tried and get out there. I'd meet new friends and do that, right? It's a good time to get out, meet people, have fun, get some physical exercise, all that kind of stuff, right? And so all throughout high school, that was like my bare minimum. Maybe sometimes I'd go to the gym and lift with my friends just because like it was a good time. But nothing never like specific. Like I never had specific goals. It was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to play on the volleyball team. Like I'll try and do what I can so we can win state, hopefully. I always would just give it my all when I would play a sport. But, after that was done, I would just do whatever I wanted. Like I would go to Cane's and get a caniac and pound that bad boy after practice. And pretty much like I wasn't fueling my body properly. I wasn't taking care of myself the way that I should have been. And I'm not saying by any means, like, don't go to Cane's. You should go to Cane's. What I'm trying to say is balance. I didn't have balance at the time. I was just this hungry, crazy man. Like I didn't really take this kind of thing seriously. Never really took health and fitness seriously. There's some high school athletes out there that, yeah, they're dialed in. Or there's other people out there who might be, focused on achieving greatness in whatever capacity that might be in their lives, right? But for me, no, not me. I was not that person. I was not disciplined. The only time I was disciplined was at practice, or, I'd do my homework and things like that. It wasn't until later in life, I would say, like as I started getting into college, and I've shared the story a few times, so if you've heard it, I apologize. But my brother and I, we started lifting weights, and it was then that I started seeing like some progress, right? I'd go to the gym and I would try and eat clean. I'd watch all these YouTube videos of bodybuilders posting their diets and be like, okay, I'm going to try and eat that. Maybe I can bulk up and look like them if I try their workouts. And so I was like actively looking for different things to help me progress, because I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to get stronger, and I wanted to look good, right? I was in college, wanted to impress the girls. Now I'm married, so shout out to Allie. Heck yeah. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Just kidding. But like those small things where I would go and watch YouTube videos, I would change little tweaks to my diet to see what works for me. That was me making progress. That was me slowly implementing these habits into my life and realizing that, like, oh, okay, well, if I eat clean, I'm not going to feel bloated or gassy, and I feel better. Like I have more energy throughout the day. Like that's a good note to take. And if I go to the gym in the morning, I'm way more likely to do it than if I wait until after work. And again, this is me. So like if you like working out after work, great. You don't like working out in the morning, that's fine. You're you, and that's great. But I started making these small changes to my day, and ultimately, like I got the framework in my head where I was like, okay, well, no matter what, I'm going to work out in the morning. I'm going to try and eat clean, and that was like my goal for years, until I started getting into running, which was about 2 years ago. And then like I had to change my entire training plan, my nutrition plan, because like as a bodybuilder, you're not too worried about like carbs and stuff. You're just like packing on the protein, right? But as a runner, it's like, no, you need to eat carbs. You need to eat lots of that because otherwise your runs are going to suck. You're going to lose fuel. And there's just these key things that you learn along your journey. And the point of the story is that there's been a lot of learning on my side. There's been a lot of testing. There's been a lot of implementation of these goals and patience. Because a lot of these things do take time to see progress. They take time to understand what works for you, understand what makes you feel good, and understand like where you want to be. What's your next goal? That might look different for you. You might not have a crazy goal of trying to be a bodybuilder. Maybe your goal is just you want a healthier lifestyle. Okay, what does that look like for you? Maybe it's not going out to drive-throughs or slowly weaning off fast food. You're the decision maker here. You are in control. What I'm trying to make here, the point is that when you understand these fitness goals, these health and nutrition goals, you're going to start feeling better. You're going to start performing better. And then you're going to be able to get after life better. But there's a couple things I want to talk about. And the first being setting realistic goals and understanding what that means. Now, there's going to be a lot of different people listening to this podcast. And there's going to be diverse people, which means diverse goals, right? And everyone's goal might look different, and it should. So, for an example, there might be a beginner out there who wants to get into running. You should aim to run a 5K. Maybe there's someone else out there who's a little bit more experienced, and they want to run a half marathon. That should be their goal. But everyone's goals are going to be different. And so what you need to do to really understand what's going to work for you is to be brutally honest with yourself. You need to take a look in the mirror and say, where am I? What do I need to do better at? Where can I improve? And what things do I need to implement in my life to make those changes happen? How can I become the person that I know I can be? So you're going to have to be a little bit honest with yourself. And by a little bit, I mean very. You're going to have to just, don't sugarcoat yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Just tell it like how it is. If you got to look in the mirror and you got to lose 30 pounds, okay. What's the plan to do that? And don't be worried about the time, because I promise you, if you start just trying, you start slowly implementing these things, you test, you're always looking for new things that work for you, then you will get better. That's a guarantee. This process, like I said, has taken me 8 years to figure out for myself, figure out what works for me. And it takes time. So be patient with yourself. But there is a very important part of personalization. Every single person, if you want to go down to like the biology level here, quick biology lesson, the cells in everybody's body are different. And so not everyone's exercise routine is going to work for you. Not everyone's nutrition is going to work for you. Let me give you a quick example on that. I'm sure you've heard the term keto, or you've heard the term paleo. These are all great little diets, right? Some work for some, others don't. People gain weight on keto. People lose weight on keto. People gain weight on paleo, and they lose weight on paleo. The thing is everybody's different. There's obviously portion control that goes along with that. But the principle I'm trying to make is like, it doesn't matter what the diet is. The thing is like some things will work for others and some won't. There's carnivore diets out there. There's vegan diets out there. Try them all. See what works for you. And don't be afraid of like, stepping out of your comfort zone to experiment a little bit. Because there's going to be a lot of experimentation. You have to look at yourself as a scientist. If we're going back to the biology lesson here, you have to test things for your body, because your body's going to be different than your friends. It's going to be different than your dad's. It's going to be different than your brother's. Even though you're related, some things might work for him that might not work for you. And so just keep that in mind, that everybody's different. And I don't want you going and looking for like a quick fix. And I feel like at the beginning of the year, there's lots of like, oh, lose weight by trying this, or improve your body composition by taking this supplement. Oh, you want to lose fat real fast? Come freeze it off. All these things, right? Like, don't look for those quick fixes, because that's all they are, is quick fixes. And then you'll go right back into the habits that you already have, and boom, the weight's back on, or your health habits are where it's at. And so these quick fixes aren't going to last long. You need to start implementing habits. You need to start building these habits into your daily routine, and ultimately realize it's going to take time. But if it matters to you, you will make time for it. You will make time to test and figure it out for yourself. I wanted to have my wife on this podcast, but it's a little bit late, so unfortunately we weren't able to get it on. But I will say that she's had an amazing fitness journey. Since we started dating, I've seen her slowly make changes to her daily schedule, to implement training, to implement like new nutrition habits. And I've seen her slowly make these changes, and she'll walk around telling me how she feels great. And she looks great too, I might add. Dang, she's hot. But everyone's going to be different. And that's just something I want you to keep in mind. The other thing that I need to focus on, which I talk about maybe a little bit too much, but there's a reason because I talk about it, it's consistency. I'm going to consistently talk about consistency, because literally it is the key to anything you do. If you want to be good at something, you have to be consistent at it. You have to work at it, and you have to set milestones. You have to set goals. And so, for example, if you don't have any nutritional habits, but you want to start eating healthier, maybe you just start doing one side of broccoli or one side of vegetables at dinner. Just start there. But do it every night, and just get that habit into your system to where you're like, maybe I want some at lunch too. I want some vegetables. I kind of like them now. Getting the hang of this stuff. And don't go all out. Just take it slow. Realize that it's like you're building these habits. There's one of my favorite quotes from Aristotle, who is an old philosopher, and he says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." And think about that for a second. If we are repeatedly what we do, then we are the habits that we are. And James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, actually talks about this a lot in his book. But we are our habits. Like, that dictates who we are. And so if you're someone who maybe on your way to work, you'll stop and get a coffee and a muffin, and realize like, okay, well, maybe this might not be the healthiest habit. Maybe I stop getting the muffin, I'll just get a coffee, or whatever that might be for you. But realize that you are a product of your habits. Everything that you do is related to the habits that you've built for yourself. And so if you want to change your habits, change your environment, change little things that will help you get back on the path, right? One of my favorite, there's this YouTube video where this guy is like pretty much complaining to a fitness coach, a health expert, whatever you want to call him. And he's like, I can't lose weight. And the health expert goes, okay, well, tell me what's in your pantry right now. And the guy goes and he proceeds to tell him, like, he's got Oreos in there. He's got Doritos, cheese crackers, all this stuff. And the guy goes, well, the reason you can't lose weight is because that stuff is still in your house. Go home and throw it away. It might be wasteful, but if you want to change yourself, you got to change what's in your house. Change your environment. And think about that. Let's break that down for a quick second and remove nutrition, health, fitness from this example, because I just want to paint the picture that like changing your environment really does help with every area in your life. And an example of this is like if you want to study more and you have a cluttered desk, that's going to be hard to like sit down, study, right? Because you're going to have all these things all over your desk. You might get distracted by some widgets on there. You might fiddle around with some things, and it might take your mind off studying. So what I would say is, okay, clean up your desk. Only keep what's necessary on there. So when you study, you're focused. You need to change your environment. If you're a smoker and all your friends smoke, stop hanging out with them because they're just going to get you to smoke more and you want to stop. So these little habits that we have in our everyday that we do every single day, they literally shape our life. That's why I'm like so passionate about the habit of health and fitness, the habit of having good nutrition and having an exercise plan that works for you. I'm not telling you that you need my exercise plan. Actually, I'd probably recommend you don't because it's pretty painful. But what I would say is experiment and try things. Because one thing that you will realize is you'll start to explore your curiosities and find things that you like. My mother-in-law loves pickleball. That gets her active. She gets out there and she's moving around and it keeps her body moving. She's not going to run a marathon with us, but she will play pickleball and that keeps her moving and active. And that's 100% okay. That's great. She's out there. She's moving. She's staying healthy. But going back to consistency, I want to talk about like a moderate approach to consistency rather than like sporadic efforts or intense focused efforts. And what I mean by that is oftentimes, especially in the new year, we get excited about a goal. We get excited about a change we want to make. And we just go all in, which is good. The only problem is you burn out pretty quick. And so what you need to do is just, like I've been saying, find small things you can change in your day-to-day so that you don't burn out. And you realize that, okay, this is attainable. If I stay consistent and if I make one change a day, I can see that this will play out well for me. Like, just understand what works for you. And don't go all out. Don't burn out. Track your progress. Because that's another thing that's helpful is like if you're able to track your progress, then you can see where you've came from. And I talk about my little journal, my running log that I have for myself where I track week over week progress. If I like go back in my pages, 13 pages, I can see 13 weeks ago. I can see where I was. And now I can see like, okay, well, I'm a lot faster now. I'm a lot more able to endure more miles now. But I can see that progress. And it's just at least helpful for me to be like, okay, on the days that I don't see me making any movement, I don't see the needle moving, I just feel the same. I feel like I'm in a rut. That's not true because I can look back and see the evidence that I have for myself. So that's helpful as well. And there's going to be times when you might lose a little bit of momentum. You might lose some motivation. And this is where resiliency comes in, like having a resilient mindset. Ways to combat that is self-talk. Like be positive to yourself. My wife has helped me so much with this. I used to beat myself up so bad. And the gym was actually like my biggest example of this because I would go to the gym and get just mad at myself. I'd be like, why can't you lift up that weight, you weak? I'll censor it here because there might be children. But I would just be the most vulgar, angry person to myself. And it was not good. Like, because then I would leave the gym pissed off and then I'd go to work. And once I got there, I was usually cooled off a little bit. But like, it was just not good for me. I would beat myself up and get really mad at myself until like, I told my wife one time, I was like, yeah, no, these are kind of the thoughts that I have at the gym. She's like, that's not good. Like, you shouldn't be talking to yourself that way. And eventually we started talking. And she's like, you need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to believe that you can do things. Because if you don't believe it, no one else is going to. And there's some truth to that. Like, think about that. If you can't tell yourself you're going to stick to a habit and you're looking for outside people to be like, hey, no, you know what? You can do it. That's always helpful. But if you don't believe that you can do it, you're not going to. It's a harsh reality, but it's true. Like, you have to have full faith in it. And I'll give you another example. Like, we have a marathon that we're running, my wife and I and Team Tim, on February 10th. And I've mentioned so many times that I'm training for a sub-3 marathon. It's hours and hours of work every single week training for this. I have to be intentional about the workouts that I do, about the food that I eat. I have to be very dialed in. And it's hard for me sometimes to maintain that positivity, maintain that goal of like, oh, you know what? This is just brick by brick. I'm building this thing. I do know though, when race day comes, February 10th, I'm confident in myself that I've put in the work. I've done the preparation needed, that I will be able to run a sub 3. I believe that. Me. I believe in myself. And that might sound cocky, but I'm not trying to be cocky here. I'm just trying to give you an example of like, if I had one slight instinct that I wouldn't be able to run, and if I'm on that day, if it's race day and I'm running and I get that little hint that maybe I'm not cut out for this, I'm going to fail. And so I don't let those thoughts in my head. And the same goes for you. As small or big as the goal might be, you need to believe in yourself. You need to know that you can do it. You need to trust in yourself. And it goes back to that podcast I did a few episodes ago where I talked about integrity and holding yourself to a high standard, holding yourself to your own personal values. You need to stick to those, and you need to be pretty adamant about making sure that you are consistent. But really, going back to the self-talk, it's so important. Another thing that might help, like if you do start to lose motivation, is start visualizing it. Like, what would it look like for you if you lost 30 pounds? Think about that. Learn to embrace the discomfort that comes with it. One of my favorite people that I love on social media, her name is Sally McRae. She's an ultramarathon runner, but she has this idea, this concept of choosing strong. She pretty much says, like, no matter what your circumstances, you can always choose to be strong. And she grew up in a household of abuse, which is a really sad story. But she talks about how, like, one day she just chose to be strong and she stood up to her abuser. And it was hard for her, but she realized that, you know what? Even though that person is abusive, I have control over my own thoughts and I can choose to be strong. And she's got a great book. It's called Choose Strong, obviously. So go check that out if you need a little bit of motivation for some of those things. But discomfort's going to come. This is not going to be a comfortable journey for you. It's not for me. It's not for anybody. Trying to grow is difficult. It's hard. And grow, I just mean by like getting better, making progress day by day. It's a difficult thing to do, and it challenges you mentally, physically, emotionally. But if you're consistent and you're willing to stick to the goal, the results will come. That discomfort will pass, and you will ultimately become a better person. One of my favorite homies, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, says, I love this quote. He says, success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come. And that's it right there. Consistent hard work leads to success. The greatness doesn't just show up overnight. It's the days, it's the months, it's the years that leads up to that where you eventually become great. Michael Jordan didn't just become the world's best basketball player because he wanted to and he believed in himself. He believed in himself, but he showed up and he was consistently hardworking. And that led to him being successful in basketball. So think about that. The last quote I'll share on consistently, at least, is it's actually from James Clear. So I just referenced him with like Atomic Habits, but he says this: the days can be easy if the years are consistent. You can write a book or get in shape or code a piece of software in 30 minutes per day. But the key is you can't miss a bunch of days. So stay consistent. I promise your goals will follow. Now, there are going to be challenges that come up. That's something I don't want you to think that you're just going to go into this and be like, you know what? I want to make a healthy lifestyle change. It's going to be easy. It will if you're consistent. But there's going to be challenges like time management. You know, where are you going to put your gym session in if you have a full day of work, if you got a family, if you have all these other responsibilities you need to take care of? Where's gym going to fit in there? Like, these are things you're going to have to think about. You might feel those lack of motivations come at times. And so just be prepared for them. One of my favorite things that Sally McRae actually talks about is someone was interviewing her and she's like, the interviewer said, what do you do when you're feeling all this pain in the race. How do you keep going? She pretty much said that she expects the pain to come before she goes on the start line. And so when it comes, she expects it. So same principle goes for you. Expect the lack of motivation to come, because it will. There's going to be days when you don't want to get out of bed. There's going to be days when you don't want to eat healthy. You just want to go eat whatever you want at the, Golden Corral buffet. But expect those times to come. And when they do, just be like, hey, you know what? I knew this was coming. It's just got to get through the day. I'll be better. And there's also going to be times when you feel like you're making no progress. Stagnation. I'll call it stagnation. You're going to feel like you're just doing the same thing every single day. But that's why I'm saying, like, track your progress, because then you can go back and look at the evidence of yourself getting better and saying, no, you know what? I'm not being stagnant, because look where I was six weeks ago. Look where I was 6 months ago. I'm a new person now. I recently started playing piano. And by recently, I just mean literally had my first lesson on Thursday. But I'm a piano player now. And so now I need to start these habits where I'm like, okay, I need to find time in my day where I can practice the piano. I can try and get better, because it's a goal of mine. There's going to be times when I have a lack of motivation. I know that, where I'm playing like 3-note songs and I'm like, this is so useless. Like, what am I doing here? But understand, like, this is just normal. It's part of the process to feel this way. These challenges, you should be happy that they're coming your way, because that shows signs of progress. Like, a comfortable life is not one that is fulfilling, in my opinion, because you're not learning, you're not getting better, you're just kind of going with the flow. If that's the life you want to live, that's fine, but not for me. Not for me. I don't like sitting around. I like seeing that progress. And so these challenges should be badges of honor for you, where you're like, yes, yeah, this is hard, but you know what? That's good, because I'm getting better and I can see signs of it. And get excited about that. When those challenges come, look at the mountain and say, okay, what's at the top? Don't look at it and say, damn, that's a long way up there. Be curious instead. But what I would say is, like, if you want to get super specific into it, you could do, like, get a workout schedule, like, get a planner, schedule it out, set incremental goals. And so like I said with the broccoli thing, like, you can have one side of vegetables at night. Maybe in 3 weeks, you'll have 2 things of vegetables a day. Or maybe it's like, another really helpful thing actually is fitness communities or nutrition communities, like people to hold you accountable or who are trying to achieve the same goal as you. And that goes back to, like, your environment, right? Changing your environment, trying to find people who are doing the same thing that you want to do. Because if you surround yourself with those same people who are pursuing the like similar goals, then it's a little bit easier to maintain that. Like, my wife makes it a lot easier for me to go to the gym, because I like going to the gym with her and she goes with me. Like, we go together and it makes it easy. Because then we get to spend time together a little bit, and it's like, I get to see her in the morning. And so it's things that we like. It's like, we get excited going to the gym, as silly as that might sound to some people, but it's true. And there are times when you're going to have to learn to be flexible as well. There's going to be times when you miss days. What I would say to that is have a little bit of compassion for yourself. And this is something I'm working on for myself as well. A good example of this is today, actually. Yesterday I had an 18-mile run. I was feeling pretty fatigued, pretty tired, pretty beat up. And so today, usually on Sundays, I have like a 5-mile recovery run. But today I looked at my wife and I was like, I don't want to run today. Like, I'm sore. My body hurts really bad. I think I might take a day off. I've been having some ankle issues, some knee issues. But again, like, I'm committed to the goal of running a sub 3. I want to focus on that. But the hard thing for me today was taking a day off. And I know that might sound crazy to some people. Like, oh, you didn't run 5 miles and you're feeling bad about it. But I did. I do feel bad about missing that. And it's a weird feeling. But I didn't do it. And I'm having self-compassion on myself. I'm being like, hey, you know what? You probably needed an extra day to recover because tomorrow you're going to hit it hard and you're going to feel a lot better. And so on days where you mess up, you might misstep, you might slip up on some of your goals, just be compassionate and get back on the horse. The last thing I want to talk about is like the long-term effects of this is you'll start to become someone that like, you know, is disciplined, someone who has these consistent goals, someone who people can, you know, look to as an example of like a hard worker or whatever you might want to say, but celebrate the small wins along the way. I would say that's one of the easiest things for like long-term success is celebrating small victories. You need to recognize and celebrate small progress, such as like if you're being consistent working out, and celebrate it. If you see improvements in your strength or your endurance, celebrate it. If you see your sleep quality improving, celebrate it. That's what I'm saying is like just find ways that you can get excited about the progress that you're making. As incremental as it might be, as small as it might seem, it's not. So celebrate it. And like another thing too, going back to the fitness community or any kind of community, whatever goal community you're trying to do, just a supportive community. There you go. That's a better word. Like find a supportive community who's doing the same thing because they'll all be bought into the same goal as you. And during this process, you're going to have to adapt and change a lot of things. Like you're going to test one thing, realize it doesn't work, and be like, okay, well, what's another solution for this? And so understand that like growth adaptation is just normal during this process too. And last thing I want to say is just find what's sustainable for you. If you feel like you're burning out, if you feel like these nutrition goals that you just implemented for yourself are too much, then find a way that you can enjoy it long term. Because that's the goal of health and fitness, in my opinion, is you want to live a healthy and happy life, like a healthy and happy life. You don't want to get sick all the time. You don't want to be going to the doctor all the time. And a lot of these issues can be resolved if you take care of your body. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require hard work. But I guarantee you the outcome is better than, you know, sitting around and being stagnant, sitting around not seeing what you're capable of, sitting around and waiting for the world to kind of just pass by. It's a sad thought, but it's kind of true. Like, see what's out there for you. There's so much out there for you. You just need to be brutally honest with yourself, understand what you want, and understand what you need to do to make it happen. And you'll get better. I promise you that. Getting after it, I say it all the time, is not just a freaking phrase. Getting after it is a lifestyle. You're always trying to get better. You're seeing what is next for you, and you're not afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to try things. When those challenges come your way, realize that that's part of it. Realize that you're making progress. And when they come, say, bring it, because I know I'm getting better. And I just want you all to spend some time thinking about like what goals you want for yourself and set some realistic goals. And after that, just be brutally consistent with it. Don't go all out once. Be slow and realize that you can make a change. So take the first step towards your goal. It doesn't matter how small it is. Just take the first step because your journey starts now. It doesn't start yesterday. It doesn't start tomorrow. It starts now. You write the story. What do you want that story to be? You decide. You're in control. That's it. This is one of the most important lessons that I think anyone can take and apply to their life. And if I got a little fiery in this episode, it's because it's one of the most important things in my life. Because health and fitness allows me to do what I do. And what I mean by that is like it allows me to perform well at my job. It allows me to be the best husband I can be. It allows me to reach out and see what else I can do for other people because I'm healthy. My body moves, right? I'm taking care of it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, because if you don't take care of your body, you're not able to do what you want to do. And as silly as that might sound, it's true. Like, you don't have to look far to see like someone on an airplane taking up 2 seats. It's kind of sad, but they guarantee they can't go hike a mountain with their kids. Might take them a long time, and it's honestly sad to me. Like, that makes me sad that there's people out there who don't know what they're capable of. But that's not you. You can make progress and you'll get better. Well, I appreciate everyone for listening to this episode. Next episode, we should have a guest on, so that should be pretty fun. Going to be talking about some relationships and other things about that. So stay tuned. But until next time, everybody, thanks for listening. Keep getting after it.